أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وأما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted all of your great deeds and amal, especially your mourning and commemoration for Sayyid Shahada alayhi salatu wasalam, with the prayer that inshallah we can all gain the bounty to go for his ziyarah and benefit from his shafa'ah by reciting a loud salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And inshallah we can include the souls of all of our mahkumin and mahkumat, those of the community, those who have passed out recently, especially mu'min and mu'minat around the world. And you can include their souls within our majlis by reciting it again another salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And inshallah our third of salawat with the full energy. Muslim, and inshallah the next salawat with full of energy and most amount of sincerity inshallah in the honor of our Imam of time Hazrat Ehsan and Asr and Zaman Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Before we actually start our topic of discussion for tonight, before that I would like to take one more of your salawats, but in the honor of every single one of those individuals who have volunteered to make all of this happen for all of us. So let's remember every single one of those volunteers, whether young, whether old, whether like new to the community or new to the center, and even those who help out by going according to what has been requested. And inshallah we can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept their efforts and inshallah grant them even more so of the bounties during the month of Muharram by reciting in loud salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We're thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his bounty and blessing, and one of a kind bounty and blessing. Perhaps the most unique bounty that one can ask would be to be able to get connected somehow, one way or another, to the school of thought of the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran. So many solutions, so many perhaps consultations, so many plans, so many programs, so many different ways of living the life that we all are within. But there is only one that is so comprehensive and so detailed. At the same time, every detail of it goes according so perfectly, according to the innate nature that we have, that it only comes down to one full, complete package. That full, complete package is what we refer to as the school of thought of the Ahlul Bayt and all. Everything else, right? Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter when, doesn't matter which part of the world, doesn't matter what type of teachings they use, and doesn't matter what resources they use. You combine all of them. You combine all of them and you make a comparison. And a comparison not only in terms of the physical aspect, that's the catch here. We're looking for a plan in which this plan will learn or teach us how to be able to reconcile the both worlds. we know we are not just living in a world that is only material. We know that we're not just living in this world for X amount of years and that would be it. It's not like once we finish our life in this world as if like someone has turned off the light and then we'll be vanished for good. No, as Mom says, like, which means indeed the topic of death is just like a bridge. What does it mean, bridge? It's not like the end of everything. Rather, it's the whole beginning of everything. It's actually the true start of our living at the time of our death. Why? Because now we see and we acknowledge the unseen aspect of the world, the unseen aspect of our deeds, the unseen aspects and effects and results of everything that we have done. So that's why they refer to it as Qanta, which means a bridge from this world to the next. Layman term, layman example, it's like imagine, right, if you have a little, like, baby inside of the womb of her mother. And so what does the baby see inside of the womb of his mother? Does he or she knows anything about the world that we're living in? Does he or she knows anything about like the type of the food, the water, the parks, the schools, all of the cool things that we do in this life? Does he or she knows about all of the different places that we can go to? All of the different pets that we can have? Right? The questions from last night, mashallah. Does he or she knows anything about, the Disneyland, the Disney World, the Adventure Park, all of the stuff in California, Orlando? No matter how hard we try to teach it, does it know anything about this stuff? Does it know about the days and nights? Does it know about the coldness and the heat? Does it know anything of this world? Doesn't matter if you constantly teach it, right? It doesn't know anything. And as if it doesn't want to believe in any of this stuff. It's within the womb of the mother and all it sees is basically whatever it understands. Nothing beyond that. But what's happening beyond that? All of the stuff that me and you are used to. Yes? All of the stuff that we are getting used to. And you're trying to get find that success within all of the conditions and circumstances that we're in. The similar concept is how we are in comparison to the hereafter. Right? Because we're so used to living in this material world, all we see, even the examples we use, the conveying of the message of even the religion, comes from the material world. That's why a lot of times it may actually cause more problem than good. Right? So what does that imply? Every so often I have to go back, I have to understand and remind myself that this world that I'm living in is not my final destination. None of us are built to live in this world forever. Although it has been a dream and a wish of mankind to live in this world forever, but we're not functioning that way. That's not the function our lives that built for us. Our final abode is a totally different place, in a different circumstances, within the different rulings, within the different principles, in a way that it will never, or it will become like what they refer to as like the everlasting sense of existence. Right? If you want a joy, you don't want a joy that's going to last you only for 1 second, right? You buy that fresh new car, the brand new car with all of its cool features, right? And you're like, Alhamdulillah, I finally made it. I bought that XYZ model of the car. How many days do you enjoy the freshness that they call it, the fresh smell of the car? Right? A week? That depends if someone scratches your car on the first day or not, right? Yes, maybe a week, maybe a day, 2, 3, but after that becomes what? It becomes like redundant for you, right? Or no, let's say I aim so much to finally get my high school diploma and then get to a good school, right? After studying so many days, after studying so many nights, after doing so much of the homework, I finally get that high school diploma. I finally get that bachelor's degree that I want to study for. I finally get that master's degree, that PhD degree, that postdoctorate, and keeps on going and going and going, right? How much of a joy does it have? And how long does that joy actually last? Vice versa. We talk about games. How many people do gaming here? Don't raise your hand, right? It's been recorded, so don't raise your hand, right? When have we been on playing a video game, right? How much of a joy do I have? There was a study, I think, it was saying that it's not the duration of how much we spend on the video game, but it's those instances in which, for example, like depending on the game, if I accomplish something within the game, that specific instant is the joyful. moment. Let's say if your level gets upgraded. Let's say if you like, you gain like a new feature. Like, I don't know, if you're like fighting, you do like an advancement, right? When there is a change of whatever you're playing with. So imagine you could be spending hours and hours and hours and hours on one video game, you're not technically even enjoying it. You're putting all of those hours. Why? So you finally get to that moment of an upgrade, and that moment, that one split of a second will be your joy. So is that the real joy that we all like want to spend our entire life for? Literally speaking, you're paying the money, you're using your own personal device, you're using the internet, you're doing all of this stuff, right? Just to benefit for a split of a second. Sometimes they make this joke about, like, from the restaurants. When you go to the restaurant, right, you have to cook your own meal. It's a new way of advertising. Cook your own meal. It's so fresh that you just eat it from the grill. So what do they say? It's like, why should I be paying to go to a restaurant and then cook my own meal? Right? I want it to be prepared for you. I don't want to pay for my own food. Why should I be doing this? It's like, it defeats the purpose. Then you'd be surprised how much this is a new experience, right? Or you go and you pick up your own fruits. Yes, it is for free, alhamdulillah, but if I pay to go to someone else's farm and then to pick up my own fruits, and then to box it and make sure everything's good, and then come back out and then pay for all these hours, and it's like, hey, that will be the price. Well, I'm paying for the experience. Yes, we are paying for the experience, but to what extent? What would be the true sense of joy in our life? Is the true sense of joy all of this one split of a second, right? Another good example, when you drink chai. Do you have a joy in every sip of the chai that you drink? Or is it after the first sip that you have, the taste becomes normal? No? Pay attention tonight, I'm not talking about tonight's chai, in general, right? So just think about that as you drink chai, or even water. Why do they say the water, one of the, again, the tradition that we have is when you want to drink water, don't drink it all at once, right? Sip through it at least in 3 stages. 1, 2, 3. Give some time between each of the sips. Don't just go and down the whole bottle like a gallon of water at once. Alhamdulillah. No. Go a sip at a time. Why? In a sense, we're trying to make sure even every sip of the water that we take, right, it gives us that ma'rifah. It's not a matter of joy. The joy is already gone. Even when you're thirsty, the first, the sip of the water that you have, it helps mentally to overcome the need of water. Because now you have the water, right? So the body calms down. Even that sip, the first sip. So why do we go and down the whole gallon? Especially during the summertime. Right? It's not, again, we're trying to stop that physical aspect to take over basically our intellect and emotions. So we go a step at a time. We try to make it moderate, and we try to make sure that every step that we take comes with that full awareness of what am I doing. It's not as simple as drinking water. No, it's thinking of what am I drinking? It is water, but the water, where has it come from? I'm sure most of you probably have seen it was one of the the famous trends back in the days, the miracle of water. One of the Japanese scientists, he did a study on the molecules, right, the cells of water. What does a cell of water consist of? H2O, right? This H2O has a specific shape, right? And this shape changes in one aspect, in the aspect that where you get the water from, the source of the water, and what has been taking place on the water. In what form? In the form of the words, in the form of the music, in the form of people's prayer. The shape of the molecule of the water changes. And you can find this online. Now question, what percentage of our body is made of water? Fact check. What percentage? Isn't it 2/3? That's what I remember last time. Maybe it's changed. Maybe it has become more. So until we get the newer answer, right? That's what I remember. So imagine 2/3 of your body is made out of water, and this 2/3 of your body all is shaped in the most ugly way because of what has taken place in the water of the body. So what happens to my body? I become sick, right? I become sick. Vice versa. All of these stories that you hear, that by drink or by eating, or even sometimes by a form of a prayer, a person finds the cure finds that shifa? Where is that coming from? So even scientifically we can talk about it, right? And again, you can like look it up online and you can see the different shapes. So he has done different tests and he has taken the picture, he has put it online. This is the normal water from a fountain, or like, very clean place within the nature. It looks very crystallized. You look at it, you're like, wow, mashallah, subhanallah. Then he has a picture of the water that you can find in there, like the city. It looks exactly opposite. So the new fact checking up.
It's a range between 45 to 75% because women have less water than babies. So the average is 60%.
Allahumma salli ala. So 60% is what fraction? You have about 2/3?
60%.
60%. That's 60 over 100. That's 6 over 10. 6 over 10 is what? Can you say 2/3? No argue on that one extra hair of the, mashallah, the guy said, right? But alhamdulillah, what I'm saying, the majority of our body, right? It consists of water. Now imagine if I blow up all of those molecules by listening to something haram. Who am I going to blame? Except myself. So what's the whole point behind of this discussion? Is the matter of no matter what I do within this world, right? It's not only I'm impacting my body, I'm impacting my soul directly. And that's the part a lot of times we tend to miss. Again, remember, we're living within a world in which in this world, the rules that we go by, the rules that we have been raised with, the rules that we are used to are what we call the tangible rules. Right? The stuff that we can study, the stuff that we can analyze, the stuff that we can send to the lab in order to get them analyzed all the way down to the very the minor details as possible. That's how we're used to, right? But in reality, is that all there is? And there is nothing behind it. This famous statement, if you show me God, I will believe in him. Right? It's a very famous statement, right? If you show me God, I will believe in him. Or, if I see God within my studies, I will believe in him. Otherwise, I will not. Would that be a valid argument? Yes, maybe, it depends. Depending on the person. What did we say in Surah Baqarah, the very first ayah? Actually, the first 5 ayahs, right? One of the descriptions that Allah mentions in the Quran, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Just take this part of the ayah, and then we'll talk about the rest of it. One of the descriptions that Allah mentions at the beginning of the Surah Baqarah, inshallah, we all have recited Surah Baqarah, yes? Who has memorized Surah Baqarah? Nobody. Inshallah, one day you all get there, right? So at the beginning of the Surah Baqarah, one of the characteristics that we recite for the muttaqin, the believers, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. الَّذِينَ means those. يُؤْمِنُونَ means who believe in what? بِالْغَيْبِ. What does ghaib mean? Yes. The unseen. Okay. So if I see the everything, if I see the God, if I see the angels, if I see everything, would anything be a ghaib for me? So how would I become a mu'min? It defeats the purpose. Right? And that's what they were saying. They were saying, actually, they were asking Nabi Rasulullah, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to send a messenger in the form of a human being? If it's supposed to be the message of God, God has angels. There should be an angel, right? There should be something of the spiritual realm that, once we see it, we believe that there is a God who is a higher form of a supreme, the superior being. Right? This argument is not new. It goes back all the way to the time of our prophets. Why did Allah send a human being? Why didn't He send angels? Why didn't He say, why did He Himself talk to us? Why didn't He show us the signs, right? But what's the problem with this argument? We say the means in which we try to understand and learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the means in which are not capable with showing the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does that mean? It means if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes a material form, that material form by itself defeats the purpose of Allah being Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Because the material form is a creation. The creation can never be the creator itself. So there has to be a difference here. And that difference is what we have to put our faith on, to believe on. That's what we believe on the unseen. None of us have seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anybody has seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Has anybody seen the angels? Not in the movies, not in the cartoons, right? Has anybody seen the actual angel, right? Has anybody seen, for example, all of the spiritual like beings that we have? So does that mean they do not exist because I have not seen them? Or no, it's because the eyes that we have, right? The physical aspects that we have is not capable of seeing the higher realms that we all have to go about, right? So it's a matter of, again, understanding that when it comes to the topic of faith is not just to go blindly. Sometimes they say, oh no, just take it like a leap of faith. Take that extra step. And they usually use the example of you're at the top of a building, right? Put your faith on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, take that one extra step. What's going to happen? You go, oh, mashallah, right? Why? Because now I'm taking away, putting aside the rule of gravity, and I'm taking what is so-called the leap of faith. No, it doesn't work that way. It's the opposite. It's like to see the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and from the creation, find the signs for the creator. Right? From the order, from the movement, from the causality, any of the principles you want to take, or inshallah, if all of us are that high enough, what they refer to as the Burhan of Siddiqeen, which means the creation by itself implies the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a little bit more advanced, like, theological discussion, inshallah, we can talk about it in a youth session, right? So the whole point is, from the creation, we're supposed to understand about the Creator. From this understanding, what does it imply for us? It's not to review our principle of religion, no. It actually tells me one thing. It tells me that if everything is connected, right? Everything I see in this world is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Directly, indirectly, within the means or without the means, right? I'm not going to get into details. What does that tell me? Every little thing that I do in this world will never be vanished. Not only vanished, will be always with me. That's why when it says even as simple as drinking water, just like 5 sips, and every sip with that awareness. Not even miss a chance of drinking something as little as water. And what does that imply? How much more efforts I have to put into, right? In order to make sure the actions I take, it has the highest form of quality according to my mother. It's not just to say, okay, alhamdulillah, I went to one majlis and that will give me guarantee. I went to 10 days of majalises. I cried for Imam Hussein. I went for ziyarat, right? Yes, all of those is great, but it's not enough. One of the reasons that a lot of times we tend to have so many problems is because we sort of feel deep down within our heart a sense of assurance. It's like if I go this year in the month of Muharram and if I cry for Imam Hussein and I have all of the ahadith, and believe me, there are books and books and books and all of them are authentic. I'm going to get to it, right? All of them are authentic, not a problem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives my sins. Forgiving of my sins, that means I'm clean. Hence, I'll see myself in heaven. If I'm in heaven, I will not bother for doing any extra work. But remember, that's not the whole purpose. The whole purpose is not to even to get that sense of forgiveness. The whole purpose is to gain more of the perfection. It's not to clean up, it's to put something. It's to make something, right? It's to build something. Not just to clean everything. And remember the example I gave you on the first night? It's not just to do the repentance on the very last moment of our life and then go to the next world with pitch blank field of land. Nothing there. That's not the purpose. So what does that tell me? I have to increase my activities. In what regards? Only in terms of whatever I'm doing so far, and then minimizing my religious activities to the 10 days of Muharram, maximum maybe 30 days of the month of Ramadan? Or no? I have to make this a priority. Which one has higher priority in the list of my to-do list per day? How much time do we spend, literally speaking? I'm sure everybody here, mashallah, different ages, but we all have to buy stuff one day or another. We go grocery shopping. We want to buy something. How much time do we spend on reading the reviews, on reading the comments, on looking at the stars, on looking at different websites, then going to the different stores just to make sure we get that best of the deal, right? If we want to spend a little bit less dollars, how much time do we spend? And how much time have we spent on the type of information we receive at the tip of our fingers every day. Or no, is it just, it's all open, it keeps on coming and going. I can hear the sounds of the notifications too, right? As if like every second a new comment comes up. It's like bing, bing. And we're like so used to it, like, oh, you look at your phone, it's like, mashallah, 100, 200, 300 of comments. So do you just go about and read all of them? Or no? Do you have to have some sort of, like, a smart filter in here, right? Why are we going to talk about the comments? Because guess what? One of the main things that changed a lot of people on the tragedy of Ashura was the very same comments that we have today in our time. In what sense? People were talking at that time too, right? It's not like they didn't have a phone and internet and network and 5G networks, so therefore there was no Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. No, they had what they called it poetry. Through the means of poetry, people would have that social network that we have today, the social apps. And you'll be surprised how fast the poetry would distribute around the cities, to the point that a poem, the verses of the poem, would reach a destination of the people who were on the traveling before a couple of days and a couple of weeks, before even the group would reach their final destination. That helped a lot of people were communicating. That's why you see like all of the Shahada and the Ashura, as they enter the battlefield, they have this eulogy, they have this like poem, that they introduce themselves. Everything was in the form of a poem, right? Remember, back in the days, like Arabic literature was at its prime. So it was the means, it was the hype, it was the trend, if you want to say, right? So these whole spread of rumors, and we're like, oh, they're rumors, right? Nobody believes in rumors. These are just rumors, these are just false information. But we look at what happened place, you see the majority actually fell for those rumors. Not only fell, they were racing one another for the sake of those rumors, to get their hand sooner on someone such as grandson of Nabi Rasulullah. Just because of the rumors that they had, right? Just because of those false set of information that they were receiving. Just because that network that they were used to, right? The set of information, the set of sources that they were getting to were feeding them wrong information. So what happens when I'm constantly getting the wrong set of information? Do I even possibly think of another option besides whatever it's been given to me? Right? So if I only see whatever is in front of us, whatever is in front of me, I would never possibly think of what may be other aspect of it. What may be for example, a 6th or 7th or 8th option. Maybe there is a point that I do not understand. Maybe there is a perspective that I do not know. This usually applies when it comes to interactions within the community, right? A lot of problems that it happens is because we see an action and we assume it in a wrong way. Assumption. Inna ba'da zanni ithmun. Right? Some of the assumptions are actually sins. It's not in the Quran. Why? I see a brother walking into a majlis, he says salam, salam, salam. When he gets to me, he doesn't say salam. That's all it takes. Then what happens? MashaAllah, some people are expert in the field, right? One salam, he forgot to say salam. No, he did it. He did it deliberately. He did it. He does not like me. I have to see what I have done to him, and now sometimes it's at that point, sometimes I continue. I have to get back to him. He didn't do salam to me in front of everybody. I have to make sure I don't disrespect him in front of everybody, because Allah says justice. I want justice. I want to make sure I'll get back to him. Could it be possibly that he did not see you? If you're as skinny as I am, nobody knows, right? It's possible. So many possibilities. No, he does not like it. He did it on purpose. He's like, And then what happens? One problem to another problem to another problem to another problem, and you'll be surprised. You find it in the whole fitna. A lot of times when it comes to marriage counseling, it will be very fun. You laugh about it. But when you pull on the problems, because on the first day, mashallah, both sides have a list of problems. It's like, ya Allah. So many that you cannot even type it on as a list. But you start pulling them one by one to try to find the roots. And a lot of times the roots becomes the simple thing that one day in the middle of the dinner, I asked for salt. For example, my spouse did not pass me the salt. Simple as that. You'll be surprised. But what has happened? That moment I made an assumption. That assumption was wrong. But now that assumption has been within my heart for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? So it becomes what we refer to part of their personality. It becomes a character. This character automatically by default, every time sees an action from the very same person, it translates it as negative one. Now even if Nabi Rasulullah comes and says, Wallah and Billah, the person did this not out of enmity, nope. I want that, starts from birth, something simple as missing. That's why they say when it comes especially to interactions, give the benefit of the doubt. Not only once, not only twice, not only 3 times. Last time you say, okay, maybe what I understand from the situation may not be the full picture. Maybe I don't know the background story to it. Maybe I have to give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe if I were in their in a position, I would have done the very same thing because I don't know all the different aspects that is involved in the decision. I only see one aspect of it, even if I see the full aspect of it. Right? So again, it's not only to say, oh, this is what going to know. This is actually literally what happened in the event of Ashura. Right? As people were talking and talking and talking, all of these comments were coming in, all of these likes were coming in, but the likes towards Yazid, not towards Imam. Right? One of the things that the first thing that actually Ubaydullah, when he reaches the city of Kufa, one of the first things he does, he leads the prayer. Right after prayer, the first thing he does is what? He starts distributing money after the prayer. But in the name of who? The very first act that he does, what is he trying to do? Bribe people in? So people will not recognize, they're not smart enough to understand he's obeyed the law, nobody's afraid of him, but they still take the money. No, the situation was so severe, right? A lot of poor people. So they would easily take the money, but in the name of who? Yes. So now the very same person, when he brings people in, now all of a sudden he comes at them with the element of force. Now you get the majority at your control. Right? Because not only now they got lowered in, but now you got the force even to force them to do whatever you want. He forms the army. He sends them towards the city of Karbala. And you'd be surprised. You make a comparison between how people were talking about Amir al-Mu'mineen and how people were talking about Muawiyah. Very same story, right? Amir al-Mu'mineen had, mashallah, all of the elites around him in the city of Kufa. Who did Muawiyah have around him? And Muawiyah actually sort of talks to Amir al-Mu'mineen in this way. He sort of he uses this as his own virtue, as his own fazila. Right? And the letter that they write back and forth, Muawiyah says, oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, or he doesn't say, Muawiyah says, oh Ali, right? I'm coming to fight against you with the people who do not understand the difference between morning and night. With the people who do not understand the difference between morning and night. There's a story that leads to it. Inshallah, one of the other nights I will tell you another story. But imagine, with that army, he was able to defeat the army of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the entire of the elite people who were in the city of Kufa in the battle of Siffin. Not only defeat, but get on the mimbar of Nabi Rasulullah. So what happens? You have all the elites on one side, you have all the companions, you have all the great ones, someone such as Muawiyah, with the people who do not understand anything that they're speaking, is able to take over and easily change the entire village. Same thing in the tragedy of Ashura. But the tragedy of Ashura is the prime, is the peak of it. Because there was nothing more or anything more behind that one would not be able to be possible. And that's why you see that they go very extreme on the Ashab of Sayyidina. They don't have any mercy. And no one is there to object. No one is there to object. Because usually even within an army, if you do not act of oppression, the people from the same army, they acknowledge it. They would say something, okay, that's enough. Right? If you want to kill him, just kill him. You don't have to torture him. You don't have to torture him. And torture him from early morning all the way to the eve of Ashura in this form. Yeah, if we went after Imam the same, what would you go after all of these other guys? Right? All of it comes from the roots of false information, forming up, piling up, to the point that the brain, all does it see is the way that they want them to see, right? Manipulation of the mind. And you'll be surprised. So that's when you have to be careful on the set of the information we receive, even on our phones. even within our lectures, even within our classes, right? Always have that smart filtering active. The stuff that I'm getting, is it legit? Is it authentic? Is it the true understanding of it? Or is it a mixture of truth and falsehood? If it's a mixture of the truth and falsehood, which 99.9% of the time is, then I have to be able to reach a stage in which I can use and benefit from the truth aspect of it and leave aside the falsehood. If I cannot make a distinguish between the two, that means I'm falling for whatever message is hidden within that content. That becomes very crucial. That becomes very important. Now all of this stuff, it's so hard, so difficult. No. Look at the event of Ashura. Someone such as a 13-year-old, such as Hazrat Ahsan, right? A 13-year-old. Just look from the aspect of the ma'arifah that he has. It's not like he has multiple PhD in Islamic sciences. It's not like he has multiple PhD in Islamic philosophy. It's not like he studied so many days within the university of such, right? A 13-year-old on the night of Ashura, when Imam Hussein is giving the news, right? And he's telling one by one that you will become shaheed, you will become shaheed, you will become shaheed. And how the ashab are feeling is very interesting by itself. They're boasting about the next day to one another. Right? Look at the ma'rifat of the ashab. But all of that on one side, Imam Hussein spots Hazrat Qasim in the corner of the khayma, in the corner of the tent. He's standing there in a respectful way. Well, 13-year-old, all of these great champs are there, right? He probably doesn't see himself as part of the group. He will not even see himself worthy of being with the group. All of this is adults. You have Habib, you have Zuhair, you have Muslim, you have all of this. You have Hazrat Abbas, you have Hazrat Ali Akbar. Qasim, a 13-year-old, standing in the corner of the khayma, respectful way. He has his head down as if he's thinking and thinking and thinking. Imam Hussein, Imam al-Masum, he goes to his nephew. It's not only nephew, technically speaking, he's been brought up by Abu Abdullah. I mean, you do the calculation. 13 years old, about 3, he lost his father, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. For 10 years, he's been living at the household of Imam Hussein. Just think about it. You go to Karbala for a couple of days, you don't want to leave the shrine. Imagine, for 10 years, you've been living in the house of Imam Hussein. Every day you see him, every day you talk to him. The matters in which he has treated you, the matters that he has welcomed you, the matters he has taken care of, especially if you're an orphan. Not a simple orphan, but an orphan of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. So you can find the connection there. Imam goes to Hazrat Qasim on the night of Ashura. What is it, my dear one? I see you as if you have a question. First, Hazrat Qasim hesitates. Because when we look at it from his lens, there's no way that a 13-year-old will be among all of those champs. But he finally asks the question. He says, oh uncle, oh my Imam, you talk about all of us become shaheed tomorrow. You talk about shahada tomorrow. Do I have any portion on this? Would I be getting any parts of this? Imam Hussein answers the questions with a question of his own. He says, oh Qasim, ask about shahada. How is shahada in your mind? How do you see shahada? How do you understand shahada? How do you feel about shahada? The famous quotation, I see, I perceive shahada even sweeter than honey. What does that mean? It means usually at the age of 13, 12, like the younger kids, every time we want to make sure we sort of distract them with something, we give them something sweet. We give them chocolates, we give them candy, say, oh, no, some sweet, right? Don't worry about this stuff. It says, whatever sweet you want to give it to me, shahada will be higher. If you give me shahada, I will never ask for sweets, basically. This is where Imam Hussein technically does one of his first rosa. He does his own masai. So Imam is thinking and thinking and thinking. Then he raises his head and he says, oh Qasim, yes, tomorrow you will become shaheed. But before you, my 6-month-old baby will become shaheed. The minute Imam Hussein says 6-month-old baby, Hazrat Ali Asghar, Qasim's eyes opens up. He says, you mean tomorrow the army is going to get that close to the khayma, that close to the tents, that they will attack inside and they will take the 6-month-old baby and kill him? And Imam starts to narrate the first masad of the Ashura. He says, oh Qasim, tomorrow, when I will be all left alone, when I have no more support, when the sky in front of you starts to turn black, that's when it happens. And you will be gone, but before that, you will be going through a high amount of pains, O Qasim. Be patient tomorrow. What is Imam is referring to? On the day of Ashura, right after Hazrat Ali Akbar has gone to the battlefield, right when they brought the body of Hazrat Ali Akbar, the Maqatil have it that immediately after Hazrat Ali Akbar, Hazrat Qasim goes to Abu Abdullah Hussein for permission. Some say, why this immediate action happened? They say it was a connection between Hazrat Qasim and Hazrat Ali Akbar. Remember, these guys literally grew up within the same household for so many years. As if like Hazrat Ali Akbar was the older brother to Hazrat Qasim. He has gone, he has not returned, it comes a turn for Hazrat Qasim. He goes to Abu Abdullah Hussein. How does the Maqtab describe? When Imam al-Hussein sees Hazrat Qasim, the first thing they do, they embrace one another. Right? They embrace one another and they start to cry. Until when? Until they both faint out and they both fall down on the ground. Some people say, how is that possible for a person to cry so much to faint? They say it's easy. Think about it. On the day of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein has not been drinking water for how many days? If the dehydration goes up and up and up and up, and you got the heat at the land of Karbala, and you have all of the masa'ib from the morning of the day of Ashura all the way to the time of Hazrat Qasim, and you just literally lost your beloved son Hazrat Ali Akbar in the form of being cut in front of you into pieces after pieces. What would that be for Imam al-Hussein? Now the remaining of Imam al-Hassan al-Mushtaba comes up to him and he asks for permission. And what does Imam al-Hussein would have to do? He hugs him. He wants to give him that love of the uncle and the love of the father to, like, in a sense, in an indirect way, beg him not to go to the battlefield. No more pain for the heart of Imam al-Hussein. But Hazrat Qasim has the ma'rifah. He's seen the shahada as ahla min al-asad. So he asked Abu Abdullah, hal li min rukhsa? Can I go to the battlefield? Can I sacrifice my life for you? Imam al-Hussein says no. Qasim Jan, I have already enough as if. Hazrat Ali Akbar is gone. They're not after you, they're after me. You don't have to go. The maqtab changes. He says Hazrat Qasim starts to drop himself down at the feet of Abu Abdullah, constantly giving kisses to the feet and the hands of Imam al-Hussein. Constantly kissing the hand of Abu Abdullah and the feet of Imam al-Hussein, asking, oh Imam al-Hussein, give me permission, please give me permission, please give me permission. He says that so much that Imam al-Hussein finally gives him a permission, but now he's a 13-year-old, there is no armor that will fit him. So how would they send him to the battlefield? There's one report that says he was wearing this long, like in Arabic, like the shtasha or the clothing. He had a imam on his head, and he had one sword at his hand. And as he was walking, the tip of the sword would actually drag on the ground of Karbala, because he wasn't that tall enough that as he ties the sword around his belt, the tip of the sword would not hit the ground of Karbala. He goes towards the battlefield. The enemy reports. He said, we looked up right after we finished up Hazrat Ali Akbar. We saw this young man approaching the Qatl. His face, shaqatul qamar, as bright as the moon. So beautiful. And the one who narrates, he says it specifically. He says, I remember he was in such a haste to come to the battlefield that he had forgotten to tie up the lace of one of his sandals. And I specifically remember it was the left sandal that he was wearing. He had forgotten to tie up the lace of it. As they're looking at it, they're drawn to the face of Hazrat Qasim, the one next to him. He says, this kid, I have to make sure I get rid of this one once and for all. The man who's reporting, he says, what are you talking about? It's a 13-year-old. He's going to come in and more likely they're going to kill him soon enough. You don't? He says, no. I see this light in his face. I have to make sure I take that light away and give the pain of losing such a loved one to the mother of this child. So he gets on his horse. He starts charging towards Hazrat Qasim. Hazrat Qasim is fighting in the middle of the battlefield. One report says he kills up to 35 people despite of his young age. But this guy, as he's charging with the horse, he starts attacking Hazrat Qasim from the blind side. He strikes over the head of Hazrat Qasim. As he falls down on the ground, he shouts out, Assalamu alayka ya Amma. My salam be upon you, O my uncle, O Abu Abdullah. Here's the second time that Imam al-Hussein rushes towards the enemy or the army of the enemy, pushing everybody back. The very first strike that Imam al-Hussein has, he kills the killer of Hazrat Qasim. Then he turns around and he's fighting everybody. The dust goes up. As the dust comes down, they see Abu Abdullah al-Hussein sitting next to the body of Hazrat Qasim, holding the body of the beloved one of Imam al-Hassan onto his chest, and he's crying for him, and he's saying, Oh my Qasim, how hard it is for you to call upon your uncle, and for me to hear your call and shout, and would not be able to respond to whatever you've been asking for me. Oh Qasim Jan, how hard it is for me to see you in a stage and a situation that I cannot do anything for you. As Imam is constantly commemorating for Hazrat Qasim, he stands up. He's holding onto the body of Hazrat Qasim to bring him back to the Khaymagah. Here the reporter says, I noticed something different from the time that Hazrat Qasim came to the battlefield and the time that he was taken out of battlefield. What was the difference? The description is when he entered the battlefield, the tip of his sword was hitting the ground of Karbala. When he was going back, Imam al-Hussein holding him out to his chest, he had raised the body of Hazrat Qasim, but the tip of his feet were dragging on the soil of Karbala. They're saying, what has happened here? If he had a short hike, what has taken place? Some say when the dust goes up, that's where all the horses go back and forth to the point that the body of Hazrat Qasim gets trampled underneath of all of those. Some say even extended the length of the body to the point when Imam picks up the body, still the feet of Hazrat Qasim is dragging on the land of Karbala. Imam takes him back, takes him to the Khayma of Shuhada, to the tent of the martyrs. He lays down the body of Hazrat Qasim next to the body of Hazrat Ali Akbar. But picture yourself right there. Imam looks at the right side, it's the body of Hazrat Akbar. He looks at the left side, it's the body of Hazrat Qasim. But what a body! He puts one hand around Hazrat Ali Akbar, one other hand around Hazrat Qasim. فَبَكَى بُكَاءً شَدِيدًا. Imam starts to mourn for both of them. He says, "Oh, my children, don't be worried. From now on, there is not a single day that you will be going without being remembered with honor and respect. And soon I shall join you." As if Imam was talking about a couple hours later, when Imam goes for the last farewell towards the Khaymagah, he says, "Assalamu alaykunna ya Zainabiya ya Kulthum," and he's asking all of the women and children for one last farewell, as if like everybody knows it will be the last farewell, but in a couple of minutes is when they say they hear the sound of Zuljanah. Sayyidah Zainab looks out, Sayyidah Kulthum looks out. What is the image they see? They see a horse that was supposed to be white, that has come back without its rider, with an upside down saddle, but the color of the skin of the horse has almost turned to a red, to so many of the wounds and so many of the blood that was gushed out from the body of Imam al-Hussein. How would they picture the day and the eve of Ashura? Sayyidah Zainab on the tell of Zainabiya, she looks down. What does she see? وَالشَّمْرُ جَالِسٌ عَلَى صَدْرِهِ. إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. فَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنقَلَبٍ يَنقَلِبُونَ. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر الأهل مني زيارة. السلام على المرسلين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم العظيم جل الأكرم. إلهي بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين وتسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين يا الله يا الله. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من أخص أعوانه وشيعته. اللهم ارحم مواتنا واشف ذنوبنا واشف أمراضنا واجعل عاقبة الأمور خيرا. Oh Allah, we ask you on the right of Imam Hussein and the right of Hazrat Qasim and the rest of the Shuhada, Allah, hasten the appearance of our Imam of time and grant to all of us the bounty of being part of his true companions. Oh Allah, we ask you to accept this majalis on your mercy and grace and to grant all of us the bounty of going to the ziyarat of the Imam Hussein and benefiting from the shafa'ah of the Ahlul Bayt. Oh Allah, we ask you to continue guiding us on Sirat al-Mustaqim and to grant to all of us the true ma'rifah of our Imam of time. Oh Allah, we ask you to help us to convey the true message of Islam to our next generations, kids, family and offspring. Oh Allah, we ask you to place this month of Muharram, the best of our Muharrams, inshallah. Let's remember all the mahrameen and mahramat by reciting aloud salawat before that surah Al-Fatiha.